Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Snort, snort, snort.
Hogan. Drip.
Snort, snort.
I got the drip. Go.
Continuing on. So this person wrote insanely large thing. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's like 400 pages. I'm just going to summarize.
Right off the bat with the DSP classic, you know we can't actually quote what they're saying and read it as it is. We gotta summarize. And you absolutely know that every summarization that DSP does, any sort of paraphrasing, makes that person look absolutely awful. We just couldn't have it any other way around here, obviously. But just for a little context, we're back at the suggestion box in case you didn't see that in the title of the video. And of course, it's not gonna go very well.
Number one, shorten your podcast by 2/3 its length. Focus more on gaming. It's the after-theater streams people are there to see the most. It's the place you most likely get support. That's completely untrue, by the way.
Yeah, despite DSP constantly talking about how all he wants to do is play video games with his viewers don't actually support all that much for the video games themselves. He does tend to get more money during his pre-streams. That's pretty much a fact at this point.
The Level 1 podcast and Daily Rap should be less combined than a single segment of the Level 1 podcast is now. Mix in talking about your day with your gameplay and focus on the stuff that's super important in the podcast. So number one, do what everyone else already does. And number two, make it so that when I turn on a game, I'm talking about other unrelated shit that distracts from the game rather than talk about it in the podcast. No. It's a terrible suggestion.
He's just so disrespectful for absolutely no reason. This is a genuine criticism and recommendation that he actually should be following. This is a fantastic idea. Absolutely, DSP should only talk about things that he doesn't actually want to talk about during his gameplay, and other things like what he did on his day off or what's coming up in his schedule should absolutely be covered during gameplay. There's no reason that he can't cover those things while he plays the game. Not only is it not distracting, but it is more entertaining than the actual commentary on the gameplay is, and he would get more gameplay accomplished. It's really just a win all the way around, but we all know that DSP can't talk about anything unrelated to the gameplay because if he does, he gets distracted and can't play the game anyway. Because he seems to be the only streamer on the entire internet that can't simultaneously talk and play a video game at the same time. But if you really boil down what this person is saying, what they're asking for is more gameplay and less of him just sitting around and talking at the camera. Which if you listen to DSP talk sounds like exactly what he would like to do, is just play more video games and spend less time talking in front of a camera and doing drama segments. But the second that somebody actually recommends that he play more video games and talk less at a camera, he's instantly salty. He's instant toxic. And it's entirely because of this suggestion that he is as salty as he is. Because the only thing that had happened before this clip started was that he had read the suggestion asking him why he doesn't do charity streams. And he actually had a fairly calm response to that. I mean, it really just boiled down to that he's not interested in doing charity streams because he's a fake religious person. But again, it was fairly calm. All of a sudden, with this suggestion where someone actually just asks him to play more video games, it's instant anger.
The reason I do a podcast is so we can get through these topics, right? Now, when I play Super Mario RPG, guess what we can actually do? Play Super Mario RPG and focus on the game. Yes, there'll be some discussions and side things, but mostly we'll be enjoying and playing the game. I can be immersed in it. Rather than I boot Super Mario RPG, and because I didn't do a podcast today, someone asked me a question about why don't I do charity streams. So now I spend 25 minutes explaining that instead of playing the game. If you don't see the benefit of having a dedicated show in the morning to talk about these topics, if you don't see that I actually have a dedicated viewer base who watch this show every day, it's like a habit for them, right? I wake up in the morning, I listen to the show, or I listen to it on the way to work, I listen to it during lunch break or whatever. I like the show because of that. I get news from it. I get to learn about Phil and his opinions and all this. I like to learn about games and stuff. This is a show that has a following.
DSP's got a point here. There are people who watch his pre-stream every single day like it's a habit, like it's part of their schedule. I think unfortunately for him though, those people are essentially just people like me who hate watch his content every single day, and that the pre-stream is the best part of hate watching DSP. It gives the most gold dust. The best rants come from the pre-streams. The biggest drama segments come from the pre-streams. All of the peeks into his personal life from his day off, they come on the pre-streams. Don't tell him I said this, but if he hid more of the gold dust behind his boring ass gameplay, there's a higher likelihood that I would miss a bunch of it because I'm not watching all of that gameplay like that. But I absolutely am willing to sit through these god-awful pre-streams on my ride home from work just so I can catch the bits live. Now, I personally always watch through other restreamers. I'm never going to give DSP that view. But for some reason, other people do, and I think that's why his pre-stream tends to get more viewers than his actual gameplay does, is because some people don't even bother watching restreams. But I think the case still stands that the reason that the pre-stream has as dedicated a viewer base, for whatever that's worth, as it does, is because it's just hate watchers.
Just because you don't like it, because you like streamers who talk about personal shit during gameplay, Do you not understand how different I am from other streamers? So what you want is, Phil, please just change and be like everybody else. No. But thanks for the suggestion.
What an absolute asshole. There was 100 different ways that he could have approached that suggestion in a much better manner and not came off like such a dickhead. So of course, instead of just saying, hey, I have a dedicated people who like to watch the pre-stream, so I want to make sure that they get the content that they come here for. I really appreciate the suggestion, but I don't think that's going to work out for me and my content. But again, I really do appreciate it. Instead of saying all of that, he had to shit on the person. He had to denigrate them in front of everybody. He had to explain point by point why he thinks that the suggestion is just the worst thing on the planet, really. Which I've already said, I think that that suggestion is fantastic. I think it would really fit what DSP says that he actually wants on his stream, which is to focus on the gameplay. But we all know that DSP doesn't actually mean what he says. He doesn't enjoy playing games at this point, and if he could, he would much rather just get paid to sit there and talk in front of a camera for 5 hours straight and then leave the stream entirely. He just can't say that because that's a bad look for someone who's supposed to be running a gaming channel.
Mix in smaller games with popular new releases while moving into the Halloween season. Now be the perfect time for a game like World of Horror and Indie. No one even knows what you're talking about.
He couldn't even bother to finish reading the suggestion before he instantly shut it down. Because DSP doesn't know what game that you had specifically mentioned as an example. He's just gonna not listen to anything that you have to say. And this is another example of a suggestion for DSP that I actually quite like and I think would do him good. It makes sense for DSP to mix in smaller games, even indie games, during all of the AAA releases so that there is that variety that he's always talking about because he's a variety streamer, you know? And I've already expressed my personal enjoyment for indie titles, and I think that it's a crime that his audience isn't being exposed to a lot of good games specifically because they don't come from AAA studios. During that whole Turkey Tom rant the other day, he was talking about doing good for the internet and good for his community. I think exposing his audience to some pretty good indie games would actually be a good that he could do for his community, but he absolutely refuses. Instead, he'd rather just shove the same COD release down their throat every single year.
What the hell is World of Horror? Again, these are personal preferences of a person. Instead of saying, here's some really good generalized suggestions that would improve your content, here's specifically what my demands are to improve your content right now. Be like a streamer I already like. Play the indie games that they're playing. No. Let's get to the next suggestions, because that was really fucking stupid. Okay.
Can this guy actually be any more insufferable when addressing his supposed fans? Literally calling their suggestions stupid, something that they thought was a good enough idea to actually bring to DSP's attention, and he's calling it outright stupid in front of them. Amazing. But he says that it's people giving their personal demands. I want you to act like this streamer. I want you to play this specific game that another streamer is playing. But that's actually not what that person said whatsoever. They literally said you should just mix in smaller games amongst the bigger games that you play. And then he provided an example of a trending smaller game that would have been good for seasonal content that DSP essentially missed the boat on and could use in his future endeavors. But like I said, DSP's never heard of the game, so instantly it's garbage. No one knows what you're talking about and you were wasting his time. How dare you? Sound good? Sounds good to me. And by the way, you know categories.
More gameplay and less react videos. Well, I wasn't even aware that I did a lot of react videos, right? That I do a lot of react. I mean, I do one stream a week of dedicated react content, correct? And yes, I did a lot of movie reviews in the month of October, which I guess could be considered react videos, right? This month, especially because I lost time being sick, I pretty much have only played games and then a little bit of reacting, right? So I did kind of refocus on gameplay this month. But there will be more. Like, for example, there's going to be a special Thanksgiving stuff. They're reacting to ads on Black Friday. So I'm shocked that someone is literally saying more gameplay, less react videos when I put out so few react videos.
Honestly, your React channel is kind of a waste of time to begin with, and it's only splitting up your viewer base. It would have made much more sense if you would have just done React content on your DSP gaming channel and done it like every other week or like once a month for a whole stream. But how could I expect DSP to understand how he's supposed to space out his content when he thinks that doing a Q&A segment is a good idea at the end of every single pre-stream that he does every single day? And I don't know why he would be shocked that people who come to DSP gaming and are giving suggestions to DSP gaming are asking for more gameplay content and less reaction style content. DSP, it's like if you go into a sandwich shop, right? Please follow me on the sandwich analogy. It's like if you go into a sandwich shop and they're selling ice cream and they don't have your favorite sandwich. You'd be like, hey, could you quit selling ice cream and instead sell my sandwiches that I enjoy? The owner of the sandwich shop should not be shocked that you're asking him to quit selling ice cream and instead give you the thing that is advertised on the sign outside, you know? Hopefully if this ever makes it back to DSP, he can follow the sandwich analogy and it might actually get into his thick skull.
And the suggestion up to this year was do React content, do React content, do React content. So now I'm doing the React content. Don't do React content. Oh, so I see the pattern here. Just whatever you're doing is always wrong. And then when you start doing what we suggest, it's also wrong. Got it.
Yes, DSP, because everything you do is always wrong, and everybody's so unfair to you, and they're so mean. It totally has nothing to do with the fact that people can change their minds on what content they actually want to see. Or heaven forbid, they actually ask you to do a piece of content, and then they see how abysmally you actually do it, and they no longer want to see that style of content from you. Or the special third option, which could just be that they like the content that you actually do when it comes to the React stuff. They just don't like how frequently you're doing it, and instead just want you to do it less frequently. It's almost like that was actually the exact suggestion. But of course, like we said, it's not those things whatsoever. It's because people just want to bully DSP and be unfair, and everything he does is wrong, of course.
Play Baldur's Gate 3. We've talked about that. I might in the future. Ignore the trolls. I'm absolutely trying to do my best with that. Okay.
Yes, because he's been so successful at ignoring the trolls for the past 15 years now. That's gotta be a troll suggestion for sure. Because it really is just such a nothing suggestion, but it obviously agrees with what DSP's mindset always is, which is, I'm ignoring the trolls, dude. So it just reinforces that pig mentality that he has.
This is hilarious. Here's one. Stop begging. I know you don't think you are, but you are. Mention how people can contribute if they choose to only once in an entire stream. Only at the beginning of the stream. Leave it alone. Don't ever bring up goals. Don't ask for any contributions. Don't hint about it either.
This, to me, is honestly one of the best suggestions that he could have been given. Because e-begging is unacceptable in every way, shape, and form on every single person. It's a horrible look, and there's no way to justify it whatsoever. But of course, this set DSP off, and that became very evident the second he actually started reading it, and you noticed that he changed his voice to make the person sound highly emotional and regarded. And the way that he constantly brings up support has never made sense to me to begin with. Because I don't understand how constantly asking people for support actually leads to them supporting you more. If anything, I would imagine it would just drive more people away, and that the people who do wind up supporting you are just going to support you anyway. But more regarded than that is that they actually make stealthier ways for him to continue e-begging without looking nearly as bad as he does. For example, you can make animations play on a set amount of time that remind people to support, that remind people to subscribe, that remind people to send tips and donations and to hit the goals. He doesn't actually have to verbalize that he needs support. He could just play something on screen and it wouldn't look nearly as bad. But he obviously enjoys the beg. He likes to do it. That's why he spends so much time doing it to begin with.
Because when you watch a television show, they only ever mention products at the very beginning. And then you just get uninterrupted content the entire television show. Right? Right?
Streams aren't television shows, DSP, and I don't know if you know this, but television shows and broadcast cable in general are a dying medium. Your goal should not be to make your streams like a television show if possible. You should be trying to make your streams better than that. To me, that's like trying to base your business model off of a newspaper company. Like, they're clearly on the way out. I don't know why you would want to try and emulate what they do. And I know it's a bit hyperbolic to say that television is a dying medium. There's still plenty of television shows and they make buku dollars, this, that, and the other. I totally get it. But specifically what he's talking about is broadcast television, and that is definitely on the way out. Streaming services have basically swept the land. So again, don't try and base your business model off of broadcast television show.
When when you're watching a 5-hour broadcast, you're expected to be there the moment the show starts to know how you can support that broadcast, right? And if you're not, and you miss out on that, oh well, I guess I'm boned that you weren't there the very first minute that you were there on the podcast.
I've said this before, I absolutely cannot stand when people smack themselves in the face. There's actually no reason on the planet that you should be doing that. I think that's an unacceptable behavior if you ask me. But my personal preferences aside, I actually want to know who he thinks doesn't understand how to support him at this point. Seriously, which one of his viewers doesn't understand how to support DSP? He's talked about it every single day, about 5 times a day, if not more, for the past several years in a row at least. And isn't Nightbot constantly spamming his chat telling everybody how they can support anyway? Why does he have to verbalize it? I just don't understand. The only thing that actually makes any sort of sense whatsoever is that he enjoys begging, and that is just disgusting.
If the person had said, reduce the amount that you ask for contributions, I would have been like, okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about balance. Let's talk about finding the happy medium, right? Let's figure that out. But literally, this person goes right to the extreme, right? No, you never can bring it up. Never can you do anything. What?
So because the person didn't specifically bring up the subject how you wanted them to bring it up, you're not even going to consider lowering the amount that you beg whatsoever? Because it would make sense to me that if someone told you that they don't want you to bring up support whatsoever anymore, and that's not something that you're willing to do, that you can still acknowledge what that person is saying and say, I appreciate what you're saying and I'm kind of picking up what you're putting down, but we need to try and find a happy medium. So if we could all get together in the chat, even right now, and kind of discuss this, that would be great, because I don't want to be constantly begging if it's making everybody have a worse experience. But just like with the previous suggestion, if you give DSP a general suggestion and then follow it up with an example, he instantly gets upset because he thinks that you're demanding something when you're really just trying to be concise. You're really just trying to be accurate in the information that you're trying to give. And I think that's a deeper problem with DSP I'm noticing more and more. Anytime that anybody tries to effectively communicate with DSP or give him accurate information or accurate details, he is immediately hostile. There's something about clear and concise information that DSP is just immediately aggro to and goes peak toxicity for. I don't know if it's because he just blatantly distrusts every single person and thinks that they're all demanding of him or secretly trolls or something, or if he just doesn't want examples of clear and concise communication being on his stream because then it makes him look worse when he uses all of his weasel words. Because I think it's a fantastic thing that if you're going to give a suggestion, that you provide an example with it to kind of clarify any questions that somebody might have. And with DSP, he's going to have 100 questions because he doesn't understand anything, or he's going to blatantly misunderstand on purpose so that he doesn't have to do something. So by providing an example, you can kind of just cut that out.
Okay, how about this? Get rid of tiered goals. No one cares if you're going to put on a gunner glasses or a hat. Instead, do a goal along these lines. All right, let's see what this suggestion is. Maybe this is a good one. $100 in tips if you get in an... Wait. $100 in tips in an hour will get you an extra hour of streaming.
And while I think that the greed is massively strong in this suggestion, I don't think that it's a horrible suggestion for DSP to do. It greatly incentivizes people to support. It gives people what they want in the form of more content. If they're willing to support for it to get it, fine, whatever. But obviously this is going to go south very quickly. I don't even have to say it.
How many times have I explained to you guys that I'm not a 20-year-old guy, I'm not single, I don't sit around at home all day with nothing to do?
I know that I cut him off a little early and he's still mid-sentence, but I want you to just acknowledge that DSP is saying that he can't do any overtime because he's not a 21-year-old single male with nothing to do in his house. So next time anybody's boss asks them to do any sort of overtime or extra time whatsoever, just let them know that you're not a 21-year-old male who's single and has nothing to do in their house. Let me know how that goes over for you, because I'm dying to know what DSP logic is like applied in the real world.
All right, this is my job, which I'm very dedicated to, and I spend the majority of my day doing. I spend far more time in this office streaming and uploading and working than I do with my family, all right? As it is, on any given day, I probably get to see my wife 2 hours, if that. In a 24-hour day, I see my wife for like 2 hours, and maybe every once in a while around the house in between, but we get about 2 hours to spend together in a given day.
I honestly can't believe that he would use spending time with his wife as an excuse as to why he can't do any sort of extra overtime for his streams. Because we all remember when the internet was out and people asked him why he wasn't spending time with his wife, and he said, what would we do? The internet's out. So obviously he doesn't want to spend time with her that bad. But DSP, if you really wanted to make time for her, you would actually start your streams like 2 hours earlier so that you could end your streams 2 hours earlier and spend that extra time with her. But that means that you'd have to get out of bed a lot earlier than 10:45 so that you could start streaming at 11 like you do now. And that would actually solve a pet peeve of mine that DSP constantly does, where he refers to his pre-stream as a morning show when it's 11 a.m. Let me tell you, as somebody who wakes up at 5 a.m. every single day, 11 a.m. is not the morning. I mean, technically it is, but no, it's not.
I get 1 day a week that I'm supposed to be spending off of streaming. Guess what I do? Grocery shopping, going to get pet supplies, going to the doctor, going to an appointment or a legal appointment, seeing lawyers, all this shit that I've always had to do.
I just want to point out that he said going to legal appointments and seeing lawyers. I don't know what that means. I don't know if this was a slip. I don't know if this was bait for drama and to troll the trolls. I just wanted to point it out because I noticed it live, and obviously I noticed it again in the recording. Feel free to speculate as much as you want. Maybe it's team divorce. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But I always appreciate reading your guys' Theo theories in the comments. But with that being said, shout out to that being said, DSP, you don't have to spend your entire day off doing all of these things, because you could absolutely at least do some of them during the week before your stream, especially if you're not starting your stream till 11 a.m. It's totally normal to go to the grocery store at 9 a.m. on a weekday if you have time for it. Same thing with all of those errands that you claim to run. Things like running styrofoam and taking trips to the dump, I'm sure those places open up at least 9 a.m. and you could be there first thing in the morning when they open. And then you would still have time to come home and start your stream on time, which I should point out you don't even manage to do now and you're already home. How do you start your stream late when you're literally in the house? But if you actually managed your time better, you wouldn't have to spend your only day off doing all of these things that you don't even want to do. Instead, you could spend it relaxing because you did all of the things that you had to do during the week. That just makes too much sense for DSP to actually do it.
I have to do on my 1 day off a week, all right? So now what you want me to do is abolish the goals that are silly and easy to do, you know, toss on some glasses or put on a hat of your choice to be a little silly with my audience. And instead of doing things that are reasonable, because they're things that I can do within the confines of the insane amount of time that I'm already working and streaming, you want me to take away even more of the time that the little time that I have with my family, okay? The definition of what you just said is called entitlement.
No, DSP, it's called a suggestion because you asked for suggestions. And like I said, I think it's a good idea. Just because you don't doesn't mean that you have to shit on this person so vehemently. Jesus Christ.
It's called that because you think that you've contributed to a stream that you can now dominate my entire life. Now, again, when I was younger, I sat around and I made gameplay videos, sometimes for 14 to 16 hours a day. I would pump out a game within 2 days, all right? That was unhealthy. I was not happy. I was fat. I was drunk. I was stupid. I was a workaholic. I had no work-life balance at all. Maybe because you are an entitled viewer, you think that that's a valid like request. It is, if it's someone who's young and they're willing to give up all of their personal time and efforts for their work. I'm 41 years old and I have a family life now. I have a responsibility to my family to actually spend time with them to keep a household running. This suggestion is incredibly ludicrous. It's so unreasonable that I'm actually now going to skip the rest of your suggestions because the first 2 ones were incredibly stupid. Wow.
You gotta love how he says that he has a responsibility to spend time with his family, as if he has some sort of kids that he's supposed to be raising, when in reality, it's literally just spending time with his wife and his cat. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with spending time with your wife or your cat if that's who you enjoy spending your time with, but I'm pretty sure that your wife will understand that you have to do a little of extra overtime on a stream if people are willing to pay you what he's actually saying that you take as a payment. $100 in 1 hour equals 1 hour of overtime is an absolute killing in payment. In my eyes, you'd have to be crazy to turn that down.
Let's continue. I mean, wow. That's really impressive stuff right there. I'm really glad that we're going through these. Okay. See, here's the difference is there's some people who can say, like, I would say the charity suggestion was a good one. It was worth going through because what I could do is I could explain to you guys, right, what's going on and why I can't really do that like other streamers or things. What my belief system, why my trolls would ruin it anyway. That was good. Like, I'm happy we went through that. But then when you get to this stuff, these aren't suggestions. You understand? These are demands.
No, these aren't demands at all. These are just suggestions that give examples, and for some reason, you're reading them as demands. Also, you gotta love that the one suggestion that he actually enjoyed, he still managed to only tell you why he couldn't do it and had 100 reasons why. Like, that's actually the reason he probably enjoyed that suggestion whatsoever, is because he had preloaded excuses and he didn't actually have to come up with anything on the spot on why he couldn't do it. Because he's already talked about why he can't do charities in the past. That was a softball, if anything. But these genuine suggestions where he might actually have to address why he can't alter the things that he currently does, he absolutely can't stand. Because he's not interested in making his content better. He's not actually interested in your suggestions whatsoever.
Be like everyone else I already like. Play all the games that other people are already playing that I already like. Don't ever ask for a contribution or explain how to contribute to your streams whatsoever. Huh? Even giant megala corporations that run fucking TV, movies, music, YouTube channels themselves don't do that. But I'm supposed to be held to these ridiculous fucking standards. No, you're an idiot.
Well, first off, DSP, it's not megala corporations, it's just mega corporations. You need to quit saying megala corporations, you sound dumb. Second off, you need to not hold yourself to the standard of what other megacorps do, because if you're not a mega corporation, and second, you're supposed to be better than them. You're supposed to be the little guy. You're supposed to be entertaining your small audience that you curate your content for. I don't know why that you think you need to be held to the same standard that mega corporations are. Especially after you went on that long rant about how awful Walmart is the other day. Why would you want to be held to the same standard Walmart is if you think that they're so bad?
I'm not going to entertain your fucking stupidity. That's really dumb.
Jesus Christ, the toxicity. Dude, it's not that serious. You don't have to get this upset because you asked for suggestions and people gave them. Actually angry at people who probably like him. And he wonders why his member numbers are as low as they are. He wonders why nobody's supporting on his streams. It's because you treat your viewers like this, DSP. This is not a good look.
Like, holy shit. Oh my god. Anyway. We got time for one more, and then we're going to get to shoutouts, okay? We got one more suggestion here. Hold on a second. Hold on a second, because now I moved my window around and screwed everything up. Okay, I believe shorts are a lot more popular now than they were when they were first launched. I think a focus on shorts again, like the channel had when they first launched, would help bring the channel to a newer audience, or maybe bring back in some older fans through the algorithm. It's an idea. And then someone responded, you're right, I think this thread is perfect for suggesting moments to turn into shorts. My problem with shorts is thus.
His problem is thus, it requires work that he's not willing to put in. He might actually have to open some sort of software to create a short, and he's not willing to do it. That's his problem. But let's go ahead and listen to him lie.
All right? You may not realize this, but this is true. Most people on YouTube who have a focus on shorts, first of all, are much bigger than me, to be honest, and they have people who work on that for them. They have an editor or someone who literally will go through their content for that day, sometimes taking in suggestions from viewers to say, what would you like to see a short of? And then they break out shorts from the content, okay?
But notice that he changed the language. It's content creators that focus on shorts. DSP, nobody's asking you to focus on shorts. What they're asking for is that you do a short every once in a while to try and boost your numbers in the algorithm, to provide a different style of content for the viewers that you already have. No one's asking you to do it every single day, but once or twice a week is not work whatsoever. And I know this because I put out a short every once in a while on my channel. It doesn't take that much effort whatsoever.
I am here from, like 10 in the morning till 10 to 11 at night with a 2-hour break for dinner, all right? During that time frame, I'm streaming an incredible amount of content. Sometimes we'll have a notable moment during a stream, and I'll be like, wow, that was a good moment. Everyone's like, oh, I'll make a short out of that. Okay, great. Within an hour, I've forgotten about it because I'm doing the rest of the stream. You know what I mean? It's a moment in time that's great to do then, but then it's lost, right?
How does he actually forget things that happen that quickly? That has to be a direct result of all of the alcohol that he's drank. That has to be the gin brain in action. That's unreasonable. And not actually an excuse because it's not difficult to look at OBS, which is right next to you, by the way, and just jot down the time that it says at the bottom so that you can go back into your recording and just find the footage and put it up. Why don't you put that pen and paper that you always have right next to you with your supposed bills on it to use for once and actually write the timestamps on it?
So, you're right. I think what I could do, perhaps, to get suggestions for things like shorts is have a submission system where people would be able to, on a daily basis, say, oh, man, something funny just happened on Phil's stream. Let me suggest that for a short, and maybe have a thread where you post that up. You say, hey, here's a short that happened during Phil's Call of Duty stream. It was a really funny moment to happen. I'd like to see that as a short. Oh, man, Phil was playing Super Mario RPG, and, this funny commentary he did, or you got a funny comment from a viewer and you responded, this should be a good short.
Wild that he thinks that people suggesting what shorts he should make is a good idea, especially after he's actually doing a suggestion segment right now, and it's going horribly. And it's gone horribly every single time that he's taken a look at the suggestion box. It's just a bad segment. But for some reason, he thinks that people suggesting short ideas is going to go so much better.
And if I have a few suggestions a day, then I could focus in on that and say, okay, here's maybe one or two that are good. And either I could work on it or I could see if there's people out there who'd be willing. I've had people who've been willing to work on shorts for me.
So not only can he not be bothered to actually remember or write down the timestamps for potential shorts so that he can make content on his channel that he would profit from, but he also can't be bothered to actually make the content itself. Because of course this is something that he would try and get out of his dents for free. This is actual free labor that he's trying to receive from his fans. Look, it's one thing if you get free artwork from your fans because they like what you do and they want to give you some sort of token of appreciation. That's totally understandable. But to actually receive video content that you're going to put up on your channel for profit and that they will receive nothing for, that's just the absolute bottom of the barrel scum. Not only is that really lazy, but it's also taking advantage of your viewers. And you can only do that for so long before they realize that they're being taken advantage of, and then you've just created another detractor. Look at Arkham Edits, because that's exactly what happened to him. He was making shorts for DSP. He realized that he should have been compensated to some extent for the work that he was putting in for DSP, and instantly became a detractor because he dare ask for compensation.
But I need the suggestions. My problem is I'm so busy getting through games and streaming and doing this all day long. I don't remember the suggestion. I don't even remember the notable moments because for me, it's just another day. I'm literally playing so much. It's like when people say to me, so what is your favorite game of the year? What was your favorite moment in a playthrough this year? In the last 5 years, what was the best platformer you played? Or this or that. And I'm like, dude, you have to understand that my mind is a jumble. I'm here all day, every day playing games and everything. I don't really remember this stuff. When you guys bring it up, I remember it. If you bring up that highlight, hey, remember this that happened in this playthrough, this glitch that happened in this one, that I remember.
This is obviously spoken like someone who is absolutely happy with what they do for work and genuinely enjoys playing the video games that they play every day and interacting with their chat. Because you know that every time that you enjoy doing something, you can't remember it whatsoever unless people bring up the specifics to you. Yeah, that totally makes sense, obviously. That's just absolutely absurd in all honesty. I can't believe that he said that and didn't realize how it sounded. The way that he's describing not being able to remember the things that happen on stream and the games that he's playing sounds like someone who is actually working a 9 to 5 that they can't stand and then just zombie walk through every single day till they can punch out.
But I don't just, I can't, you know, I'm already, again, if I was someone who was a big popular YouTuber, who had 1 million views within a week, and I had big money and I could hire someone to be my editor, and this person just sits there in my content, they have access, you know, to all my content, and they could sit there and field suggestions, and immediately when something funny happens on the stream, highlight it. And then at the end of the stream, let me go. I'm going to break it out. I'm going to make that short. I'm going to toss that out there. I'm going to name it with a clickbait title and all of that shit that everyone does on YouTube, right? But I don't have that capability to do it myself. I'm a one-man army, right?
Well, DSP, you could always turn the clipping feature back on your channel. That would probably help greatly because then people could clip your content for you. But of course you don't want to do that because people would obviously just clip all of the bad parts. And he's always concerned with what other people are doing. If he had more money, he could be like them. If he had money and time, he could hire an editor and he could do all of these things. How about instead of telling us all the things that you can't do, you come up with some sort of compromise of what you can do. Hey guys, I can't do shorts all of the time, but I can try and do at least 1 a week. That's my promise to you. I can get you 1 short a week. Something like that. You don't need a massive team of editors or all of the time in the world and all the money in the world to make a goddamn short once a week. I think that showing some sort of initiative and some sort of effort, it goes a long way. But you just can't even be bothered to try. And that's why you're on level 1.
I do have help. I want to say this. Shout out to the people who help me. There's lots of people. My moderation team. There are people who make art for me, animations for me. There's people who make shorts for me. All this stuff. I really appreciate that because you see this whole thing right here? Like, no exaggeration, what you see here is the end result of a community. It's not the end result of one man. This is the end result of a community working together to make my streams look this good. Do you understand?
Yes, because you're a charity case. In every sense of the word, you are a charity case. Everything that you have has been gifted to you because you apparently don't have enough money to support yourself and better your streams whatsoever. I know I say this a lot, but DSP is the only internet content creator that is as lazy as he is. He can't be bothered to buy his own equipment. He can't be bothered to make his own content. He can't be bothered to come up with ideas for new content. The only thing that he can actually do for his content is play video games, and even then he's not good at the games he plays and he can't talk while he does it. It's actually the lowest quality gaming content I've ever seen. And that's even before we talk about how he didn't bother creating his own overlays, he didn't bother creating any of his own animations, he steals every single meme in his community from the detractors. I mean, genuinely nothing in this guy's stream is done by him. Everything is somebody else's work and he just takes it. He's one step away from letting one of his dents just run the stream for him and actually do all of the talking for him as well. And I think that if he could and he knew that he would make the same amount of money regardless, he absolutely would. He doesn't want to be here, dude.
And I appreciate that very, very much, okay? But you have to understand that I have limitations. Like, I like the suggestion, but the suggestion works for someone who has a team of people working for them who can make shorts and break it out of their content every day. I don't have that capability. I don't have time for that. I'm already here too much, you see? Plus, I don't remember. Like I said, that's the other problems, too. So, if anyone has an idea how to make that work, I'm all ears. I would love to hear suggestions on how to make that work. That would be feasible. I don't have the ability to do that.
You heard him, folks. He wants to hear how it's feasible. Send him the clip of me talking about it. I don't think that he genuinely wants to hear it. I don't think he'll listen whatsoever, but he asked for it.
You know, I'm sorry. I like the charity suggestion was valid. Had to explain why I can't do it that way, right? This suggestion is completely valid. It's just that, sadly, I don't have the means to do it like other bigger people. Because, again, I guarantee you the people that this person's talking about are big streamers, big content creators. And they make a fucking short and it gets 20, 30,000 views, right? So it benefits their channel. I make a short, it gets a couple hundred views to 1,000. And that's if I even remember what the funny short was. And I submit, you know, have someone work on it for me. You know what I mean? Like,
Of course, somebody else has got to work on it for DSP because he can't be bothered to make his own content. And he pointed out how many views that his shorts get. Does it really matter how many views they get, DSP? The important part is putting out content that your audience is specifically asking for. That's why you should have played Baldur's Gate 3. That's why you should make these shorts, because people keep asking to see it and you're not providing content they want to see. That just means that they're going to go elsewhere to see it.
It's not as easy as people think. People do think that everything is in life is so easy. It's not at all. This kind of stuff, it's, you know, for someone like me, again, the difference here is that people just think I'm the same as everyone else. I'm literally couldn't be further from everyone else out there who's a content creator. You have to understand that.
Yes, DSP, for the millionth time, we get it. You're different. You're not like everybody else. You're so unique. Jesus Christ, how many times do we have to do this? You're talking to the same people every single day. Do you really think that they want to hear this shit every single day? Everybody understands you're uniquely different because you can't be bothered to actually put any effort into your content and you don't care what your audience wants. Instead, you just want to beg every single day and coast through your life getting free money. We get it. You've made that very clear by now.
Even people who you think are my contemporaries. No, I've always been different. I'm a one-man show. I do all this shit myself, right? Every day.
And this is not a flex. This is just to put it into perspective. I work a full-time job and I come and I make these videos every single day. There's no editor. There's no team. Nobody is making my content for me. This is entirely me. I'm a one-man army, dude. It's just that it's not important to say. Nobody cares. They come here for the content and that's literally it. Doing all of your content yourself is not unique to DSP. There's content creators all over the internet that are solely responsible for all of the content that they make.
And I'm very grateful for the help that I get from the people who help me every day, because I wouldn't even be as good as I am without the help that I get. But I'm stretched thin. I really am. You know, it's very hard for me to do anything outside of the realm of what I'm already doing, because I'm already here 6 days a week, all day, full time. You know, how do I have time? Yeah, if I had 3 more extra hours every day, I would scour my streams and videos to find the funny shorts moments and break them out and make shorts out of them. I don't have that time.
I gotta press X to doubt on that one. I don't think that even if DSP did have 3 more hours in the day that he would take the time to do that, because he just doesn't care. He's not interested in doing anything for his audience. I don't know how many more times I can say it. I can say it till I'm blue in the face and it'll always be true. And I know all of you know, the people who regularly watch these videos, I know that you're aware, but anybody who isn't aware, please don't listen to the guy's lies. He doesn't care about his content. Because if you really wanted to do something, if you really wanted to get something accomplished, you would make effort to do it. You would at least take those baby steps to get your foot in the door. But DSP doesn't.
I'm not single. I'm not in my 20s sitting at home with nothing to do all day, and this is what I do all day. It's not. When I was single and I was in my 20s and early 30s, that's exactly what I did. I sat around all day recording insane amounts of videos and pumping them out nonstop on YouTube. That's how I made my living, and that's how I became so prominent back then. Things are not like that anymore, right? So there you go. So I hope you guys understand. And I'm going to keep going through these suggestions.
I have no idea why he will continue to go through these suggestions, but I am grateful that he is, because I hate this segment. I think it's awful for him and it's a terrible look, but I 100% love that he can't address any single suggestion without being a toxic asshole about it. And while I don't have a running tally for how many suggestions he's responded positively to or even said that he could actually do, I'm pretty sure it's actually 1 or 2 maximum. There wasn't a single suggestion in this clip that he actually said that he could do or would look into. And from what I recall, the very first time he opened the suggestion box and looked at them on stream like this, he didn't have anything positive to say about any of those either.
But what's hilarious is that you get a couple suggestions that absolutely are fair and reasonable, and we can talk about them fairly and maybe consider them, and then you get a bunch of people who are just like fucking so entitled, demanding people. Why aren't you just immediately doing everything that my favorite streamer does? Because I'm not your favorite streamer.
Well, at least DSP is willing to admit that he's nobody's favorite streamer.
I'm not. I'm someone different. I always have been, you know? I can't constantly just do everything everyone else does. I don't want to do everything everyone else does. It makes me different, right? Anyway, all right. So we'll get back to that soon, maybe even tomorrow. We'll see, right? We shall see what happens and go from there. But thank you guys. Let's continue. And let's get to shout out.
I agree, DSP. Let's get to shoutouts because that's the end of the video. I really hope all of you enjoyed DSP's suggestion box ridicule. It's quickly becoming a favorite segment of mine, so I hope all of you enjoy it as much as I do. But of course, a big shout out to Snort Hogan for the clip. I really appreciate it, brother. Thank you, thank you. You do the Lord's work out here. And of course, a big shout out to all of you guys for watching the video. I also really appreciate that, especially you guys who have made it this far. Thank you. Hopefully, I'll catch all of you guys in the next video, but until then, make sure that you check out other detractor channels and dive deeper into that Snortex.